Without further ado, we're going to talk about proverbs used within the community about the community. So, of course, Baba Bunseki Fu-Kiau starts with some Kikongo just to keep me on my toes. So I'll read this bit, but I won't read all the other bits in the chapter. So we've got Ngana Zitewanga Mukanda Mudiambu Dia Kanda. When the African in general and the Congolese in particular use the expression Bambuta Bata Ngana or Ngana Yata Bambuta, Kingana Kiata Bambuta, literally proverbs theories said by ancestors, he refers according to the context to a philosophical, social, and dialectical, theoretical, legal, or judiciary statement. In that case, Bambuta Bata Ngana may explicitly refer to one of the following explanations. So it could mean one of these things: according to the unwritten law of our society, or it could mean according to the law, or it could mean accordingly to the custom. Page 93. It could mean all of these things. According to the ancient theory, conformity to the law, conformity to the social patterns, norms, and values, in accordance to the well-known cases, conformity to our principles, the law says, in accordance to the exigencies of the system. It could mean let's consult the law. It could mean our concept of the law tells us that. It could mean legally, that means legally speaking, judiciary speaking, the law says, the law is, etc., etc. This proverb is one among the most important sources that best explain the African Muntu and his thought. In debates, in ceremonies, in judgments, in joy, as well as in misery, proverbs are frequently used to reprimand, to criticize, to compare, to segregate, to encourage, to punish, to heal. They are used to teach, to explain, and to thoroughly code and decode. Kanga, yeah, Kutula. For African people, proverbs consume a special language. Sometimes, for many, proverbs are considered both a secret and a sacred language. Where are we? Sorry. Proverbs considered a secret and sacred language in their communication with the expression talk in proverbial language. Zonzila mu bingana. An expression used within the community to prevent the leak of very fundamental principles of the society, i.e., to prevent the outsider from auditing the debate, to have access to any basic systematic concepts of the structural organization of the society, especially if its secrecies. Once I was talking to an audience of more than 30 intellectuals, and a friend of mine passed me through the audience a written word saying, "In such spots, places, talk superficially, don't dig at the bottom of things." African people are very sensitive to what touches their conceptual base. Interesting. So he's just to say what he's getting at here is the importance of proverbs. And I must do a book on proverbs as part of this series, actually, because it's a very, very well known fact that a lot of our wisdom is encased and is transmitted in the form of proverbs. And proverbs can just, I mean, we've read so many of these Kikongo proverbs while we've read this book. And Shakara, my brothers and sisters in Jamaica and in the Jamaican diaspora, it's through them that I really, understood the concept of proverbs and the importance of proverbs. Even any person who's ever listened to the Bob Marley and the Wailers or any reggae music knows about proverbs, because proverbs make up a huge chunk of the of the lyrics of Jamaican music, of Rastafari music in particular, and they're so. What he's saying here is a really important one, because proverbs, it can be easy to think of proverbs as just being so overly simple, overly, not detailed, not serious, not, you know what I mean? It's easy to think that proverbs are some sort of lower type of communication or lower type of discourse in comparison to, say, a letter or a book or a text, or do you know what I mean? These sorts of things. But I like what the Bunseki Fu-Kiau is saying here, because he's saying that, just there, he said on page 93 and the other page, he's saying that when we're around other people, the idea is to use proverbs, just talking proverbial language. Don't be getting deep into the intricacies of the culture, the intricacies of the conceptual basis of that culture, the intricacies of the philosophy of that culture, because those things are for us. And don't you just love that? I love that, because that makes sense. A proverb, you can see proverbs as kind of like high, what do they call it? High context, a high context form of discourse, i.e., someone could say a proverb like, 1 cocoa, full basket, boom, done. And like, the average person who's not Jamaican would be like, what the hell? What does this mean? One, and it needs unpacking. It's knowledge, it's wisdom that needs unpacking. And I think that's what Bunseki Fu-Kiau is getting at here, is that when we're around in Bakongo culture, when you're around other people, there's an idea that you use proverbs. Just use proverbs. Don't get deep. Don't let other people know what we're talking about. And you know what? Here's me streaming online to potentially millions of people, Maybe we need to learn a little bit more of this, like secrecy, the importance of secrecy. So returning back, page 94, we read, although African people enjoy talking in proverbial language, they also recognize that the use of this very philosophical language is dangerous, even mortal. Because of the danger presented by this language, one uses, what's this? Oh yeah, sorry. Because of the danger presented by this language, one must understand perfectly the meaning of the proverb one uses, because one Kingana, probably means proverb, says, Wata ngana bangula, ngana kadina kimbonga ngana, wafwila mu ngana. Literally, know the explanation of every proverb you use, for, sir, proverb teller died upon the proverb he used. One may be condemned for what one says. Right. There's been a lot of talk this chapter. There's been a lot of talk about the fact that in Bakongo society, if you cross the line of accepted behavioral norms, particularly he was talking about how the representatives who were tasked with taking the word of the village, the decisions of the village, to other villages and so on, if that messenger gets the message wrong, grossly gets it wrong, he could be executed. So I like, not that I like people being executed, but I like the point that this isn't some namby-pamby, oh, everything's so lovely and we're all just sitting here meditating and being one with nature in peace. It's like, yes, that it's that, but it's also, listen, when time comes, there could be some harshness, there could be some punishment, there could be some sanctioning, by the community of people who transgress. And I think that's an important point. Again, thinking about, practically implementing or practically expressing some of these things, in the day-to-day today, in a modern context. This is something that could, it's not that these are only things for very simple kind of societies where there's never any conflict and so forth. Actually, the same kinds of approach to transgressing could be done on a national level or on a governmental level, potentially, if that makes sense. But back to the page. Proverbs as a means of intellectual communication of great ideas within the community are said and learned within the community. At a public house called Mbongi, in the marketplace, during the initiation period, during the work time, anywhere in the bush, on the street, at home, and as well as while running during a hunting party. So proverbs can be, proverbs, what the point is making, that proverbs are just intrinsic to just day-to-day life in Congo society, in Bakongo society, is everywhere. And that's the beauty, one of the beauties of proverbs, isn't it? Is that you don't need to go to university to study the conventions of proverbs so that you can start to learn them. Children are learning this. We talked when we did Kindezi, Bunseki Fu-Kiau's book about the Bakongo art of babysitting. A lot of that book was about how babysitting is the top priority in Kikongo society, because babysitting, quote unquote, Kindezi is the means through which children are, embedded into the community, embedded into the culture, embedded into the philosophy. And that embedding happens, a lot of that embedding involves proverbs and involves children and involves, in all aspects of life, this learning is taking place. And I like that holistic kind of learning, that holistic kind of socialization. I feel like we've kind of lost a lot of that in the West, at least, whereby we have stuff like what I'm doing. We have organizations, we have meetings, we have these things. That's all great and good and so on. But we're never going to really do much if that's what we depend. If we're expecting our people to liberate ourselves, and the way that we're going to do that is by going to meetings once a week or twice a week or whatever, that's just not going to happen, is it? How we're going to liberate ourselves is by embodying all of this knowledge, all of this wisdom in our daily day-to-day, in all areas of our lives, like our ancestors used to. So back to the text. Proverbs in African contexts are laws, reflections, theories, customs, social norms and values, principles and unwritten constitutions. They are used to justify what should be said or what has been said. Proverbs play a very important ethical role in storytelling, legends, etc. Very often, parents as well as griots, Nsamuni, okay, that's Kikongo word for griots, and storytellers end their tales by very fitting proverbs. Interesting. African proverbs are numerous and diverse. They deal with people, God, ancestors, animals, forests, goods, money, page 95, ideas, wars, sun, moon, time, social problems, education, food, life, ku mpemba, the ancestors' world, traditions, kinkulu, history, kikulu, plants, insects, etc. We give here a short list of Congo proverbs related to the community in order to show our readers how rich these proverbs are, and perhaps they could reshape our corrupted young nations in Africa. Proverbs are laws, principles. They define the human rights as well. It is my belief that African nations will not possibly be built upon outsider systems. As this proverb tells us, Kandaka ditungwanga va lweka lwa fukia nsiko. Community is not built outside the social system of its inhabitants. Yeah. The nation, nsi or nchi in Kiswahili or taifa, the nation, like the community, kanda, must be built upon the national social system, fukia nsi. To build one's own society outside of one's own system is not only to weaken that society, but to destroy it. When a society is destroyed from its roots, one must expect all kinds of ailments that might accompany that destruction. Disorganization, corruption, embezzlements, internal wars, insecurity, bankruptcy, violence, hostility against oneself, social injustice, poverty, famine, disease, and death in masses. Certain educated Africans pretend being more intelligent and more skilled than their uneducated ancestors. I don't know, maybe it is so, but the same intellectuals forget what one says about those uneducated ancestors. Our ancestors did not have dictionaries or encyclopedias, true, but by their experiences, proverbs, and their sincere autocritiques, self-critique, they did maintain and save the national and community security. Bakuluka bavwa, wow, that's a very long sentence, and community security. Could our intellectuals pretend to maintain that our community's members are safe, secure, happy, and well-fed today? Maybe they do in their intellectual way, but I cannot say so. That's Besides, no generation in any society can claim superiority upon the former one. Learning and progress, i.e., civilization, are both building block processes. One does not exist without the other. Just to break off what you said there about the arrogance of modern intellectuals who would probably look and say, well, look, now we've got hospitals, now we've got doctors, now we've got, literacy rates are much higher than they were, before colonialism and so on and so forth. That is the kind of thing that people, some people do maintain. They've got this worldview that basically they've been brainwashed and programmed by Europeans, to think that the European ways are the best and the most modern and all that sort of stuff. And so, of course, you have to look back and you have to denigrate what came before. And so much so, as Fu-Kiau has said, so much so that a lot of our intellectuals don't even learn our African languages these days. Like me, I'm one of them, but I'm trying. They don't even learn the languages, which means they can't even understand the ways of their own people anymore, because they've forgotten. They've become cultural orphans because they can't even speak their mother tongues, and they're not connected to the culture. Shout out to you, Everything is Politics. Nice to have you on board. You said you're just popping in, just dropping by. So yes, watch the last chapter. I assume you're signed up to the Substack, because that's where you can catch all of the full video discussions. So yeah, sign up at eliwananda.substack.com. And if you're watching this on replay, then the full video discussion, we'll leave about 20-25 minutes of this here on YouTube after the stream is finished, but the full video will be archived for all of my patrons and supporters on Substack. So yeah, just do that if you would. So yeah, that's just on that point about it. It's a shame that so many modern Africans feel comfortable enough to to have such disdain toward our ancestral ways, when frankly we should, if it wasn't for our ancestors and our ancestral ways, we wouldn't even be here for a start. Just on a basic sort of fundamental level, how can you disdain something that kept our cultures and our people alive and thriving for thousands and thousands and thousands of years? How can you just, because of a couple of minutes in the day, which is what the European kind of, what Europe basically is that when you look at African history, Europe is just a couple of minutes in our history. How can you sell out your all of the last thousands of years for the last just a couple of hundred years? But anyway, yeah, let me not go on too well. So yes, page 90. Where are we? Page 95, I think that is. I can't see the page number. Yeah, page 96 rather. Regardless of our rejection of what we should really be, sooner or later, our nonsense intellectual realizations within our communities will be destroyed unless they are rooted on our social system, be they social, economical, political, philosophical, etc. The study of our languages may enable us to understand the systems, what they were, in case they were destroyed by the aggressor. This is the point I've just said. I'll just say that again. The study of our languages may enable us to understand the systems, what they were, in case they were destroyed by the aggressor. Do you see that? The language preserves. So even if they destroy all of our ancestral ways, if they destroy all of our social ways, our political ways, and so forth, as long as we have our language, then there is hope that we can it's almost like the DNA or the genes. These are like genes. You can, as long as you've got the genes, as long as you've got the DNA, you could still build the organism.